Good evening, councillors, directors, members of the public. I now open the extraordinary council meeting on the 25th of March 2025 at 6:15 p.m. I will now call on Councillor Hamilton to read the acknowledgement of country.
I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and the Gadigal peoples who occupied the Sydney coast, being the traditional owners. On behalf of Randwick City Council, I acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders past and present and to Aboriginal people in attendance today.
Councillor D'Souza with the prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Almighty God, we humbly beseech you to bestow your blessings upon this council and to direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of Randwick, the city of Randwick, and Australia. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, councillors. Please be seated. It appears that we have a full house, so there's no need to call for apologies or leaves of absence. There being no request to join via audio-visual link, councillors, are there any declarations of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? There being no declarations, I will now read the chairperson's announcement. In respect to the Privacy and Personal Information Protection Act, members of the public are advised that the proceedings of this evening's meeting will be recorded for the purposes of Clause 520 to 523 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Audio, video and photography of meetings are prohibited without the express permission of council. A person may be expelled from a meeting for using or having used an audio, video recorder or camera without the express authority of council. I just really would like to emphasise that to members of the gallery, that you are not permitted to take photographs, record, or any form of broadcast from tonight's evening. It's publicly available online. There are also minutes which are recorded. So I just really want to emphasise that. Members of the public who are identified as doing so will actually be ejected from the chamber. Thank you. We now move to the announcement of speakers. All members of the public addressing tonight's meeting will have a maximum of 4 minutes in which to put forward their case, with no extensions available. Presenters will be stopped when the 4 minutes has expired. Councillors may ask questions of presenters at the end of each public submission. And the first speaker that I have this evening on the first item is... Thank you. Speaking for the notice of motion from Councillors Hamilton, Magna and Wellington in relation to 6/52 Beach Street, Coogee, is speaking for Mr. Barry Tozer. Thank you. Just over there, Mr. Tozer, when you're ready. The one thing I will say before you begin, Mr. Tozer, at the end of your address, councillors will have the ability to ask questions. It is a matter for you, as if you would like to answer those questions. It's a matter for you. You're under no obligation to do so if you do not feel the wish. Please feel free.
Good evening, councillors and members of the council, members of the district of Randwick. I've been asked by the friends of, or the residents of Quayle Street to prepare a report, an engineer's report, on the alleged damage to public and private property as a result of the presence of the weeping fig trees, which are located along the northern footpath or adjacent to the northern footpath of Quayle Street. There is a row of 5 trees in this location. My report is addressed in answer to a report by a company called Structability Proprietary Limited, who made certain allegations about the effect of the tree on the alleged the local infrastructure. I've identified the claims made by in the structurability report, which says in fact that it's a scope of works rather than an engineer's report, but in fact identifies the extent and alleged causation of damage in the report. Next slide, please. The only damage, or the only thing that I could find within the environs of the boundary fence, which is of significance, was the area which I've ringed in red on the photograph, where the original iron work feature has been filled in and, the original gate and letterbox has been removed and filled in with brickwork. You can see that that brickwork is not of a standard of the original brick wall. Next slide, please. Looking down the street, you can see on the right of the left-hand photograph 3 of the 5 trees, and you'll also note that the boundary fence, looking at that photograph, is absolutely vertical and there is no signs of any damage to it from that photograph. If you look at the photograph which I've taken on the right-hand side with a little bit of rendering on the top of the wall adjacent to Unit 5, you can see that at the point at which the repair work has been undertaken, there's a change in grade of the wall. And the effect of that change in grade of the wall is that the otherwise horizontal bedding planes change angle at that point and appear to run downwards towards the ground. And at that location, because of the trapezoidal shape of the renovation repair work that's been done, it gives the impression that there might be a bulge in the fence there. And it is that which has been taken by structability as being the main cause of damage caused by the tree.
Councillor Magna for a 1-minute extension. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 2 minutes. 2-minute extension, please continue.
Yes, Councillor.
Please continue. An extension.
I wondered why it had gone so quickly. This is the photographs here. The one on the right is taken by council at the time that they did some pruning of tree roots about 2.5 years ago. You can see that there are only minor tree roots adjacent to the wall. There are some larger roots in the under the footpath. You can see that on the left is another photograph which purports to show the bulge, but in fact it's taken at the end of the wall at the driveway where in fact the post, the pillar at the corner is bowed so that the appearance is deceptive in that diagram. Next slide, please. Another of the allegations made is that the car parking area is damaged. you can see that the car parking area consists only of what we would call car tracks, which are unreinforced concrete and are laid for the benefit of putting the wheels of the car on concrete rather than on the earth. And there doesn't appear to be any obvious damage in those areas. There's no cracking that I could see. And if anything, there is a small amount of what's known as lipping, or difference in level between the ends, the two ends of the piece of concrete. But there's no cracked concrete and no damaged concrete in that. Next slide. This is other alleged damage to the garden, if you can call it that, at the western end of the property. You can see way in the distance is the fifth of the weeping figs. The fourth one is out of sight around the front of the building. Any damage or any presence of roots in this area could not be attributable to tree 4, which is the one out of sight. If anything, it's due to this tree which is located at the end. Next slide. This is another photograph of that fifth tree, and you can see that two other areas of damage which have been identified are the driveway crossing and the curb. However, there is no damage, no cracking whatsoever to either of those. There is a small amount of uplift at the butt of the tree, but that causes no damage or any disadvantage to anybody trying to cross the verge into the property. Next slide, please. The last item which is allegedly damaged is the asphalt footpath adjacent to the property. You see a photograph on the left of the full length, and you see a photograph of what appears to be, or what structurability says is damage to the footpath. There is a small rise of maybe 1 or 2 millimetres in a couple of places, but asphalt paving is flexible for a reason. It's flexible for the reason that it can cope with damage. And usually it is not until there is somewhere at least 5 millimetres or sometimes even 10 millimetres of level difference at an obstruction in the pavement before repaving is necessary. Next slide. As I see it, and from my observation and inspection, no rectification is needed to any existing private or public infrastructure now or in the foreseeable future. The footpath asphalt will likely need to be relaid in perhaps 5 years, but relative to the economic value of trees, that cost would be negligible. Next slide. In summary, no material damage, no rectification needed, no insurance claim required, future liability possible in the future, no damage claimed to the building structure. The trees are far distant from the front wall of the townhouses, and as I understand it, stormwater has already been replaced in the street and sewer is on the other side of the property, at the rear of the property. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Councillor Magna.
Thanks, Mr. Tozer, for the work that you've undertaken in the preparation of this report and for the work you've done in coming tonight. Can you confirm that, in your professional opinion, the tree is not causing damage to the private property at 652 Beach Street?
I think that's the case, yes. From my observations, there is no structural damage whatsoever, no signs of cracking of any walls or buildings. There is a little bit of upward movement as a result of tree roots being underneath the ground.
Thank you. Councillor Willington.
Thank you very much for your report and your presentation. Could you confirm that you are of the opinion that the structurability scope of works is a deficient document that does not prove cause and effect?
Well, they assume that the damage exists. They've shown a few photographs, but they haven't provided any causation other than to blame it on tree roots.
Can I ask a supplementary question? And just a supplementary question to that, is it normal industry practice that a document of this quality be accepted as proof of property damage?
Not normally, no. One would expect a more detailed structural engineering report which can show better the causation that has caused the damage.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? There being no further questions, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will politely ask the gallery to refrain from clapping where possible. Thank you. Now speaking for the motion, Mr. Rob Aird. Thank you. And I'll just ask that you keep to the time limit if possible. Thank you. It was 4 minutes somewhere.
4 minutes-ish. I'm going to speak a bit fast and get there. So what I'd like to talk about is why 40-plus residents, which is now what we have in our crew, are so vocal, and also to answer Dylan's question, which is there another way to save the tree? What can we do? So next slide. Wow, thank you. Our first issue is around process, governance and transparency. So our take on this is that there's been no engineering report, so there's no proof of cause and effect. The council papers actually stated that there was. It stated this was a structural report, so I think it misled people in the last meeting. There's an arborist report which hasn't been released. There's another supplementary report that we understand was key to the decision that has not been released. The expert report was not distributed to you. We had to do that by email and text. The expert report's been critiqued. There's been some discussions we've had, but no formal, thorough response, which we'd love to see. And no transparency on the insurance claim process. Conscious there's some commercial and confidence stuff in there, but some update on what's going on and where we should be focused would be useful. So Dylan and I did an interview the other day on ABC, which was great. Some of the comments were the claim went straight to the insurer is taking things out of our hands. So we've actually just done some research just to learn how that works. So JLT is the claim manager. Statewide Mutual is a New South Wales co-op. It's a self-insurance pool, and they're actually run by JLT. So there's this really excellent, cohesive, integrated firm that's interested in the best interests of this council. Jump to the next slide, sorry. I actually had a chat to a few people in there. This org chart's a little out of date. Please don't take this as the point not being the names on the chart. The point of this chart is that everyone in statewide Mutual and JLT report to the same people. There's one little team that sits in Barangaroo that manages the insurance affairs. This is not a faceless insurer in Switzerland. This is actually someone who we take to be someone who you could actually work with and collaborate with. Their words were that we're owned and managed by New South Wales councils. We work hand in hand. Everything is highly collaborative, and we have the best interests of council and ratepayers at heart. So jump to the next slide. This one's a little busy. I apologise for that. But what I'm trying to do here is to work out what can we do? What are all the everythings that we can do to save the tree? And how do we manage our ongoing liability? So my first question is, and I'm hoping we'll get some colour on this later, but the status of the claim. Now, ideally, we would say there's no damage. I think Barry's proven that pretty black and white. So there should be no claim. That's on the top left. On the top right, full insurance claim, full loss of future cover, we understand that's a risk. We just don't understand why we've had to jump all the way to the end. What are the shades of grey in between? Could we have self-performed some works and hence avoided a claim altogether? Could we have minimised the scope and kept ourselves under the limit? Could we go back to the insurer and say, hey, we've got some questions about your lack of an engineering report. If you did tell us we had to settle this claim, well, maybe we should have a little negotiation around the amount of liability you're going to push back on us. Okay, this is just a commercial arrangement. There's no black and white in these things. Okay, let's assume as a worst case though, let's assume that the insurance claim is done. Let's assume they've passed liability onto us. What is that liability? My understanding from them is that it's not about branches dropping on trees on the other side of the fence. It's about the tree roots particular to this claim. So what it's really about is will those tree roots affect the fence again in a few years' time? Will they raise the footpath again and cause trip and fall? Okay, so what can we do on those things? Conscious of time, jump to the next slide. Well, maybe all we have to do is look at replacing the wall in 15 years' time. Insurance is going to do it now anyway. Why don't we just replace it? And on the other side...
Have a 2-minute extension.
Thank you very much, Dylan, appreciate that. On the path itself, have a look at that asphalt. The guys did a cracking job. Council's done a fantastic job on pruning and on the footpath. That's better than most footpaths in Randwick. And we're only talking about the first few metres of that footpath. We're not talking about the whole length because the rest of it's still insured. We're only talking about a few metres in front of that tree. Could we just refurb that asphalt, what it's designed to do, every few years? So could we only spend thousands of dollars per year to keep this tree? Next slide, please. Just really quickly, Woollahra Council deals with this exact issue in its TPM policy. They talk about down the bottom there where we're compromising a structure such as a masonry wall, which is not a core element. Do everything you can to keep both. They recognise this. Next slide, please. So what we're asking is, to be crystal clear, we're not asking you to vote to say, keep that tree forever. We're pragmatic. We understand insurance, we understand process, we understand costs, we understand risk, we understand all these things, and it's not a simple problem for you to face. However, we think that continuing to push ahead and remove the tree is not supported on either a fiduciary duty or a process and governance basis. What we're asking you to do is simply to pause and reassess. You might come back in a couple of months' time and say, hey, we've reassessed things, we've looked at the damage, we've pulled apart Barry's report, there's 10 holes in it, whatever it might be. The insurer might say X, Y, and Z, that's all fine. We're simply asking that you pause and reassess and give some time to work your way through the process. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Magna.
Mr. Ed, thanks for the work that you've done on behalf of your community, and the campaign you've run has been a formidable one. I've got a question though. Do you feel that Council's insurer accepted the claim when it shouldn't have?
I actually don't know if it's been accepted or not. I've been told it's irreversible. When I've asked how that's known, everyone said, oh, sorry, we don't know anything about it. I understand commercial in confidence. There's some realities there to deal with. That's how insurance works. If it has been accepted, it's obvious when you look at this fence, it's not damaged. It's screamingly obvious to everyone who's looked at it. That's why we've been so revved up, because this just doesn't seem to stack. And I think everyone who's come to have a look at it has been somewhat shocked. We had to pay thousands for Barry to write a report to say what we think is pretty obvious. And so, yeah, I would expect that an insurer would actually force an engineering report to be produced. I'm actually concerned for fiduciary duty. For me as a ratepayer, I don't want to be exposed to crazy amounts of public liability. I also don't want spurious insurance claims to get up and for you to end up paying higher rates, higher premiums, 15 grand for this tree, 15 grand for the next 4 trees. Bear in mind that's also 25 grand of the tree value being taken off council's balance sheet. And if you look at the research, it's 50 grand off the value of all of our houses. So I'm not very good at maths anymore, but that's a lot of numbers for all of these houses. So yeah, I think it's pretty poor to not have a proper report.
Councillor Magna.
Why is it that you as a community felt that it was necessary to file the FOI or the Government Information Public Access?
Yeah, look,
application?
we've been asking a lot of questions. I'm sure you've all been hammered by text, by email, by phone, hundreds of messages. We've had a couple of chats. Katie and Todd came out, which was great. I had a call from Dylan a couple of weeks ago, which was great. It all was kind of high level, and when we tried to get the details, just simple things, an arborist report. There's statements in the council papers specifically taken from an arborist report. That can't be confidential, yet we couldn't see those. Okay, so distances from fences, like really important facts. So we felt that in the absence of information being provided, then I went back to the local government rules and the code of meeting practice, I think it was called. There's actually a slide somewhere, but it's all about transparency and making sure that justice is seen to be done. And none of us felt that we were able to get the information that we should from our council. Again, not saying we expect a particular outcome, but we would like to see due process.
Councillor Wellington.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ed, for your very clear and helpful presentation. I note the great amount of work that has gone into the residents' presentation and all of you being here tonight. The tree in question is one in a line of 5 trees, correct? And clearly is at some risk, or we wouldn't be here. If this tree were to be removed, how do you regard the future of the further 4 trees?
That's the deeper fear for all of us, is that if there's a process that can be worked through in this way, with a lack of engineering reports and a lack of transparency and no consultation, what happens to the next 4? So this particular resident is this way inclined. There are other residents who may also be this way inclined. How do we ensure that the next 4 don't go exactly the same way? I think we've established a massive chink in the armour, and to be honest, everything we've done has probably just proven and demonstrated in the public audience how you make it work. How do we make sure, how do all of us in this room make sure that there's an appropriate process put in place so that the next 4 aren't soon to follow?
Thank you. Are there any further questions? There being no sorry, it's questions from councillors. My apologies to the speaker. Just in relation to that, I don't have any latitude to allow questions from the floor. It hasn't happened, at least at any point in my time on Randwick Council, as much as I'm sure individuals would love to be able to do so. Are there any further questions of the speaker from councillors? There being no further speakers, no further questions, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate the time and the ECM.
Thank you. Thank you. We now move to the item NM 19/25, Notice of Motion from Councillors Hamilton, Magna and Willington, 6/52 Beach Street, Coogee, Hills Weeping Fig Tree Removal, request for postponed removal of the tree and reconsideration of the decision to remove the tree in light of new expert opinion. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Willington. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Willington, could you please outline what it is that you are seeking to move?
I will do that, but just in front of it, am I able to ask a question through
What I
you?
might suggest,
Yeah.
just from purest procedure, is that
Yes.
you
Move it first.
you move it first
Yep.
and then ask the question,
Okay,
if
fair
possible.
enough. Okay, thank you very much. I move the motion as read. I'm confident that my fellow councillors will have read the motion. The motion briefly responds to the extraordinary outpouring from the residents of in and around 652 Beach Street in relation to a threat to the tree that was to have been demolished 3 weeks ago, but is now here for discussion. The essence of the points of the motion is that the residents have put up a very strong and persuasive case. There are very many residents. We have all fellow councillors had numerous emails and phone calls, and the matter has attracted a great amount of attention in the wider community. The business papers that were prepared for the general meeting of council a month ago contained a scope of works paper that we are not confident, or I and the 2 fellow councillors who've joined in calling for this meeting, are not confident fully described the state of any possible damage, and we were not convinced that we had sufficient evidence on which to make the decision that was made at that meeting. The Quayle Street Residents Group has commissioned their structural report, which we have heard from Mr. Tozer tonight, and they have very clear view and demonstrated that there is very little ground to suggest that the tree has in fact caused any substantial damage to the property. So we note there's a very strong view. Also, there is a question from the residents that all avenues of other alternative management of the tree have not necessarily been considered, and that they are very much concerned that this will set a dangerous precedent in relation to other trees. We also wish to seek further clarification in relation to the insurance and the future liability of the tree and bring the matter back to Council to a future meeting.
Councillor Wellington, your question.
The question.
Sorry.
No, Paul?
I'll let Councillor Wellington ask a question. Councillor Wellington.
So, further to this, we have done a lot of work with all the North Ward councillors. Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Magna, myself have worked closely with the community, with the residents group, to explore their concerns, listen to their complaints, work as a bridge back to council in order to get further dialogue. Because of the level 1 notification on the tree, it meant that the residents were very, very confronted by the sudden knowledge of risk to their tree. So all of this has brought us to this point, and so I would like to ask, through you, Mr. Mayor, the relevant officer, could they please clarify how, from council's perspective, we have arrived at this point where all efforts have been made to preserve the tree at 652 Beach Street, apparently, yet it will be in all likelihood be demolished. How have we come to this point?
Through to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors. Councillors, we have been managing the issues surrounding the Quayle Street fig trees for a number of years on that particular site. The process of how we got to where we are tonight is that a resident lodged a claim with council's insurers for damages to their property as a result of this particular tree. Council did not lodge the claim with the insurer. The insurer commissioned their own report, that structurability report, which was on the business paper, on the property damage that the tree was allegedly causing. The insurer then made an assessment that the tree was causing this damage and agreed to a settlement payment with the strata there. The matter was then reported to council at the February meeting. The insurer has advised council that the tree in question is now a known foreseeable risk that could cause future loss, be it personal or property damage, and council does not have insurance coverage moving forward if council does not abate that particular nuisance. The acting general manager and the director of city services met with councillors and residents on site regarding the matter. The director of city services met with residents to discuss the Tozer report. The residents, after getting some inquiries from the councillors, we did a number of things. The residents' Tozer report was provided to council's insurers to ascertain if that would assist them in reconsidering their position regarding the tree. The insurers, in writing, have come back and advised that it did not change their position on cover moving forward. The tree is a known foreseeable risk, and that council has to abate the nuisance. Another question was posed to us was, can council... Another question that was posed to me, posed to council, was, can council sell the tree to the residents?
Sorry, thank you in relation to it. If there are issues hearing, there is a recording in relation to it. I can tell you it's very, very clear. It's a matter for the general manager as to his volume in relation to it. But it is taken a notice in relation to that, but there is a recording which is available for individuals later.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just repeat the last bit. The residents' Tozer report was provided to council's insurers to ascertain if they would assist them in reconsidering their position regarding the tree. The insurers advised that it did not change their position on the cover moving forward. The tree is known as a foreseeable risk and the nuisance should be abated. Council then asked, can we sell the tree to the residents or an entity? The insurer advised that it is not as simple as to sell a tree, as you will need to constitute the area of the tree, including the root system. Purchasing the entity would need to have funds secured to compensate for losses caused by the tree going forward. If it's an unincorporated entity, then the individual members would be liable for any future losses arising from the tree, including private, public, utilities and personal injury. We then asked the insurers, can council cover the cost of the claim, and would this change the insurer's position and enable future cover on the tree? The insurer advised in writing that is not the case of who pays the claim, but knowledge of a potential issue which is not abated by council, and thus is a key consideration for insurance cover moving forward. Council is obliged to abate this nuisance. In summary, councillors, council did not lodge the claim that commenced this process. Council's insurers have considered this matter and determined that the tree poses a known foreseeable risk, and the claim has been assessed in accordance with legal principles. Council needs to take action regarding this particular issue, and the insurers have advised that moving forward the tree will not be covered for any cost to personnel, utilities or properties.
Thank you. Councillor Wellington, do you have any follow-up questions?
I think that was a very comprehensive answer. Thank you very much. This leaves council no wriggle room at all, really. Not very technical, but
Through to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, councillors, from discussions with the insurers that I've taken, and also the questions we've asked and the response we've got back in writing, it does not leave council with wriggle room.
Thank you. Can I just confirm Councillor Hamilton as the seconder?
I reserve my right.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Councillor D'Souza.
Tonight, friends, we will fight. Tonight, friends, we will win. Coming here this evening, my friends, I have no hidden agenda. I am fighting for my future. Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points in the stock market. Losing my future. I'm here to speak for all the generations to come. I'm here to speak for the countless animals dying across this planet because they have nowhere left to go. I'm afraid to go out in the sun now because of the holes in our ozone layer. I'm afraid to breathe the air because I don't know what chemicals are in it.
Is this towards the...
Yes, it is. I will.
Okay, thank you.
I will show the connection, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor D'Souza, please continue. Before you do, all comments will be relevant to the motion which is in front of us. Councillors, please do not interject. If you have a point of order as it relates to the Code of Meeting Practice, you're allowed to move to call it.
And now we hear of animals and plants going extinct every day, vanishing forever. In my life, I've dreamt of seeing the great herds of wild animals, jungles, and rainforests full of birds and butterflies, but now I wonder if they will even exist for my children to see. All this, my friends, is happening before our eyes, and we act as if we have all the time in the world and all the solutions. Climate change, my friends, is real, and we need to take immediate actions to address it. This fig tree in Quayle Street is more than just a tree. It is a symbol of resilience. It has survived many years of human beings' disrespect and mismanagement of our environment, which has led to climate change. This tree provides habitat to creatures other than humans and cockroaches, which is all we will have left if we replace all the green with concrete. We must value the importance of the urban forests and its inhabitants, all of them, from the little frogs that live in the gardens and croak after rain, to its human inhabitants in all their variety. This removal of the fig tree is a continued threat to the precious canopy that we are rapidly losing. Sadly, Randwick Council continues to lag behind our neighbouring councils when it comes to preservation and urban forest planning. It is always possible to balance the risk that these trees present with their preservation. All that is required is a proactive council that makes a priority of doing so and is willing to think laterally. Councillors, I strongly oppose the removal of this large fig tree in Quayle Street, and I urge you to consider an alternative solution to Coogie's Quayle Street fig trees. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw a hand up from Councillor Magna. Councillor Magna,
Yes, I have an amendment to paragraph G.
could you please outline your amendment, and then I will ask if Councillor Wellington accepts it.
To delete the existing paragraph G, based on the explanation that the General Manager has provided, that the detail from the insurer has already been sought, and replace the existing G with that Council formally postpone the removal of the Hills Weeping Fig Tree at 652 Beach Street, Coogee, until further notice. 2, direct the General Manager to seek written clarification from Council's insurers regarding future liability considerations within 21 days. 3, require that the independent structural engineer's report commissioned by the residents formally be reviewed by council staff and included in a comprehensive assessment report. And 4, return the matter to council for consideration at its April ordinary meeting with a complete assessment of all alternative options to tree removal.
I take it Councillor Veitch, you're seeking to second that? Yes, I will ask. Yeah, no, I will ask Councillor. Councillor Wellington, do you accept the amendment?
Thank you very much. I accept the amendment.
Councillor Hamilton, do you?
Yes, I accept it.
Okay, thank you. Just for the benefit of those in the crowd, what has occurred is Councillor Magna has proposed an alteration of the text included in the motion. Councillor Wellington, as the original mover of the motion, has the option to incorporate that text. She has done so. So the motion, which is now in front of us to be debated, incorporates the words as proposed by Councillor Magna. We now return to the substantive debate on the motion as amended. Councillor Magna, do you wish to speak on the substantive debate?
Yes, I do.
Councillor Magna.
So the amendment that I've proposed is not about ignoring the concerns that have been expressed by the council officers or as outlined by Mr Brownlee. It's about ensuring that we as councillors have all of the facts and all of the options and all of the possible alternatives before we make irreversible decision to cut down the tree. Trees aren't just an asset, they're part of our environment, and this is about standing up for what is right. And for me, fellow councillors, members of the community, this is striking to the very heart about what we stand for as a community. It's not just about this single magnificent fig tree. This is about our commitment to good governance and our values that we preserve and manage a sustainable urban environment. The people of Quayle Street, Beach Street and Arden Street are all united in one voice about this matter, and I believe they've convinced me with the presentations tonight from Mr Tozer and Mr Aird that they've got the facts to back them up. When I saw the report from Mr Tozer and the information that Mr Aird provided to me about the status of our insurance and the engineering reports, it raised very legitimate concerns for me. Has this tree actually damaged the property at 652 Beach Street? Has it created a liability for this council that is uninsurable and unmanageable with all the resources that we have as a community?
So can I just interrupt? While the call and response is very fun, I would strongly suggest to everyone that the speaker will be heard in silence. Thank you.
Look, our urban environment is not something that we should leave to property lawyers. It's not something...
Sorry. There's a point of order from Councillor said to point of order that all remarks will be addressed through the chair. That's my interpretation of your point of order?
I'm just saying that you speak to the mayor, not to
Yes,
the audience.
yes. Councillor Magna, I will gently remind you that the Code of Meeting Practice clearly states to place your remarks through the chair.
I appreciate the gentle reminder, and from my Labor colleague, Mr. Danny said. Nevertheless, I'm standing here as a champion for the community, and I'm standing here to say that we shouldn't be beholden to lawyers. We shouldn't be beholden to insurance companies. We should be beholden to our community. We should be standing up for the values that we are here to preserve and protect, and that is for the creation of a sustainable urban environment. We need to find a way that we can navigate a path where we can live with a beautiful row of trees and with houses and a livable world. This tree, politicians and a lot of us around this table often talk about climate change. This tree is actually doing something directly about it. It's preserving the air, as Mr. Councillor D'Souza pointed out. It's creating the urban heat. It's addressing the urban heat island effect. It's providing habitat for our community. It's providing amenity for the people of Quayle Street and Beach Street. And there has to be a way that we, in good governance, now having new information that I don't believe that we had at the time that we made that decision, can turn this around and address the very real needs and material needs. Because if it's not just for this tree, it's for other trees like it, the other trees on the street that are now in peril, the other trees on other streets that provide the same type of amenity for the community. So I urge Council to take caution, to clarify our position with the insurer, to better understand the basis of the claim, our future liability, and to really look at any potential solutions. Let's assess the alternatives and bring the matter back to Council so that we can all make a proper decision based on full and better particulars in this instance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Veitch?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to speak in support of this motion that, as amended by the councillors. Look, the General Manager said some very concerning words, which we need to take seriously. However, what is crystal clear from the report that was presented by the Speaker today is that there is evidently very serious flaws in the report that was sent to the insurer. And that has led to a chain of events where we find ourselves at this meeting tonight. We cannot afford to ignore the fact that the alleged damage to that fence was not caused by the tree at all. And so how we are now finding ourselves in a position where an insurer is making a very terrible, in my opinion, decision to remove a tree which provides habitat for so many creatures for the last, how old is the tree? 75 years. And no doubt for at least another 75 to come. The cost, we do not have any information here in these reports to say actually what the cost is to the environment, to the habitat this tree provides. It is incalculable. And unfortunately, our trees are valued at a very low level with respect to these insurance claims. They're only valued at, I believe, about $20,000, which just is mystifying. That needs to be reviewed. So I would urge all the councillors to support this amendment. Let this new report be considered by council staff and by the insurer so we can have a proper look at what is going on in respect to this tree, and I urge councillors to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Look, I've put my support behind this and I support residents, I always have. I just wanted to just clear up for residents and for new councillors as well, that if an item comes to council and it does pass through council, the resolution is determined, that they need to put in a rescission motion. And it wasn't until I spoke to some residents and I outlined the number of avenues that they have to redress what they felt was an incorrect result. So just putting it out there that we've got some new councillors and they didn't know that they needed to get a rescission motion in before midday the next day, so they could bring this table back, this item, the tree back for further debate and vote. And so it slipped through, and then we had the residents standing up and making their voices heard and ensuring that it did come back to council. So well done, residents, and I think that we just need to take notice of that in future.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Before I ask Councillor Willington to close the debate, I have a question through to the General Manager. Procedurally, in the event that this motion were to be passed, can I just confirm whether or not a future report would be dealt with in open or closed session?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Point 2, where it talks about written clarification from the council, from the insurers, would necessitate that would actually be from their legal people would actually put a comment on that, so therefore that would make it a confidential report.
Thank you. There being... Oh, no, so Councillor Willington needs to close the debate, and then Councillor Willington to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In closing the debate, I'd like to say that the option of rescission motion was considered, but at the time we had not had feedback from the residents, and it was following feedback from the residents that this that these further proceedings have come. I'd like to thank very much my North Ward colleagues for joining together in supporting the residents. I think it's been a remarkable show of unity. Thank you to Councillor Hamilton, thank you to Councillor Magna, thank you very much to council staff who were extremely helpful to us in preparing the site meeting and advising and helping with getting this meeting on track, and to the Mayor and everybody who's worked together. There's been good cooperation from all sides, but most of all, I thank the residents. It has been an extraordinary show of solidarity, thank you, solidarity, and I was going to say outrage, but I think you're right to be outraged and concerned when you wake up in the morning and you find that a very, very important part of your local environment is threatened with demolition, and the way in which you acted swiftly and decisively and contacted your representatives and have brought about this meeting has been admirable, and I commend it. So with those concluding remarks, I very much hope my fellow councillors will vote in favour of this motion so that we can get a bit more time and a bit more due process in whatever decision may be forthcoming. Thank you.
Thank you. There's been a request for a division from Councillor D'Souza and Councillor Gordon. Okay. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. We have Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Willington, Councillor Magna, Councillor Veach, Councillor Martin, Councillor Asghari and Councillor D'Souza. All those against. We have Councillors Hay, Luxford, Gordon, Rosenfeld, Wilson, Said and Burst, and the Mayor. I declare the motion lost. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. There being no further business, I declare the extraordinary meeting closed. Could I please ask that members of the public now vacate the gallery? Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Could members of the public please leave the gallery? Thank you. Thank you.
Conservation is the future, not chopping down trees.
Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. So, councillors, just so you're aware, so the advice from the General Manager is we actually have to start the next meeting within 30 minutes. So I'll just wait for the gallery to vacate. Otherwise, we won't